No commercial.
Plus 20 primetime commercial spots.
That's massive exposure at a fraction of the cost.
Including on the #1 morning show in Jamaica, Sunrise.
So don't wait. Call us on 658-208-5377 and see your business goals happen right here on CVM Television.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
The private sector organization of Jamaica wants to make it easier for foreigners to work locally. This comes amid what the government describes as a skills deficit, even as the country celebrates a historically low 4.2% unemployment rate. That's almost full employment. We explore that and more in each story this afternoon. Good evening and welcome to Lead Story. While countries like the US are pushing back against the ideas of foreigners taking jobs, here in Jamaica, the private sector organization of Jamaica seems to be calling for a bit more openness when it comes to bringing in foreign workers. Picture this. It's a bustling market full of stalls stocked with goods, but not enough vendors to keep things running smoothly. That's what's happening here in Jamaica. Lots of opportunities for growth and investment, but not enough local skills to make it happen. The private sector organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, like I said earlier, is pushing for policy changes to make it easier to recruit international talent. PSOJ president, his name is Metri Siaga, says however, this proposal has sparked some controversy. Critics argue that bringing in foreign labor could limit job opportunities for locals and slow down efforts to build up skills of the Jamaican workforce. They are stressing the importance of investing in training programs to equip Jamaicans with the skills needed to meet the demands of industries, much like Senator Gale in the Upper House recently.
Jamaica's unemployment rate has been hovering over the 4 and 5% region for the last 3 years. Now, this is a point of boast for the government and a positive macroeconomic indicator for the health of the Jamaican economy. So things are looking up for employment prospects. But it's not time to pop the bubbly yet, as the growing skill shortage seems to cast a shadow over the positive outlooks on the Jamaican job market. Private sector leaders have been sounding the alarm on the shortage of skilled laborers to occupy jobs in Jamaica. In 2021, Statin found that only 16% of the employed labor force had advanced post-secondary qualifications, while another 14% had certified vocational training. And another point of concern raised in Capri's report titled Growthless Jobs found that professionals with degrees who are highly skilled workers declined in employment share from 15 to 14% despite adding 6,850 workers. While the private sector has been the main advocate for solutions to the skills dilemma, the government has taken note. So what's holding up the necessary skilled labor imports? The work permit mountain. The work permit application process has been criticized as being cumbersome. Work permits are issued for varying durations, from 1 month up to 3 years, with the option for renewal. Standard responses are set to be 6 to 8 weeks. Many stakeholders report significant delays, sometimes taking up to a year for approval. The process is also hard on the pocket. Applicants are required to pay an application fee of 17,250 Jamaican dollars, and additional costs can range from $195,500 annually to $48,875 for every 3-month period that the permit is valid. There is also a perception that non-Commonwealth nationals face more difficulty in the application process, possibly due to the difference in visa-free travel privileges between Commonwealth and non-Commonwealth citizens. So why not just employ Jamaicans? Well, brain drain might be the answer. The same Capri report found that 79% of Jamaica's tertiary educated population lived in the diaspora. While the government might be aiming to upskill our local labor force, can importation of skills from global workforce be the remedy needed to boost the Jamaican economy? We discuss on Lead Story. Courtney Lewis for Lead Story.
Now we must immediately consider, how can we balance the need for skilled labor with the long-term goal of nurturing our local workforce? Tonight we engage Wayne Chen, Carla Ann Roper and Ronaldo Blake for more on the matter. But before that, a quick break. Stay right here.
Of the year for 2 days only, November 29th and 30th, up to 50% off this Black Friday. Pop-up deals offering 30% off selected items until December 2nd. Follow Bashco on all socials at Bashco Jamaica for more information. Mark your calendar and subscribe to Bashco YouTube channel for not miss the biggest sale of the year. Bashco, the store that gives you more.
Let's take a trip to the future. Join the JPS Foundation at the Climate Action Conference and Expo on November 30 at the Chinese Benevolent Association. Hosted by CJ Sparks and Paula Ann Porter-Jones. Explore Sustainability City, meet our Power Up Energy Club Innovation Challenge finalists. And check out career options at the Career Corner. Test drive electric cars and dive into cutting-edge tech. Plus, our immersive teaching tunnel will show you how you can take action for a sustainable future. Follow us on IG and Facebook at JPS Foundation to learn more.
Welcome back. You're watching Lead Story. Tonight we're diving into the pressing issue of labor shortages in Jamaica and the government's proposal to bring in foreign workers as a solution. Joining us now are Carla Ann Roper, Principal Consultant on Employment Matters Caribbean, Wayne Chen, President of the Jamaica Employees Federation, and Ronaldo Blake, Lead Researcher for Capri's Growthless Jobs. Now, good evening to all of you.
Good evening. Good evening.
Mr. Chen, I want to start with you. The PSOJ is suggesting bringing in foreign labor to fill gaps in the industry. What do you make of that proposal?
I've lost sound.
Yes. Yeah.
Mr. Chen, you hearing me? It appears we're having some audio challenges here. We're discussing a recent proposal by the PSOJ to bring in foreign labor to fill labor shortages here on the island. Again, Mr. Chen, are you hearing us?
Yes, we're not hearing him at all.
Mr. Chen?
Not hearing him.
No.
We seem to be having some technical difficulties here in studio. We're going to take a quick break, but we're going to be right back here on Lead Story. Stay tuned.
People don't bother feel like you can predict who is going to be in the shop with me. A ship carry you back at you. Controversial. How old were you?
8 years old.
Now we're contemplating. These are the digits. What kind of episode this was? Another junction in life.
I have 2 left foot then, sir.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, man. See the buckle of the Nigeria now. This is my show and you will not drop word from me.
They even know them things.
TJ, I can't say that no. You're going to mash up some house.
You know, say barber shop just really there ready to make your cut.
So, why you cut before? The cut, okay.
Now I'm where I wanna be.
The Cut is brought to you by Flow. Welcome back. You're watching Lead Story. Now we're joined by Mr. Wayne Chen. He's president of the Caribbean Employees Federation. We're also joined by Carla Ann Roper. She's consultant on employee matters. And we also have Capri researcher Ronaldo Blake. Again, to you all, thank you for joining us. Let's dive right into the conversation. Mr. Chen, Jamaica's unemployment rate has fallen to 4.2%, but many industries are still reporting significant labor shortages. From what are the main sectors, from what you've heard, are affected?
Well, I would put not but, I would say and many industries are reporting labor shortages. Jamaica is a small, fairly porous economy. You know that we have one of the highest rates of brain drain in the world. Around 80% of our tertiary graduates leave Jamaica. We also have a relatively low level of skills in the workforce. Only about 40% of the workforce has certified skills. Last year, Dr. Wayne Henry of the PIOJ sounded the alarm. He said that Jamaica is going to hit a ceiling in economic growth if we don't address the skills crisis, the lack of skills in the workforce. Because it's not just a question around existing industries, which already has, and when I say industries, in the education sector, if you were to use that sector, there's a huge shortage of math teachers and science teachers. I believe I saw a survey that said that fewer than 20% of the math teachers in the high schools are qualified. When you go to physics, chemistry, and the other STEM subjects, it's even lower than the 20%. So it's not just a question of industry, it's a question generally, because if we are going to move towards a high-skilled workforce, start with the basics. We have shortages right there. As for potential businesses, when investors come to the country and they are looking to start a new enterprise, it's not that people are standing around waiting for an investor to come to flock to that investor to find work. The fact is that vibrant economies tend to also have the most flexible and the most accessible workforces. It's not a coincidence that in this hemisphere, if we were to look at it, the most highly advanced economies, not just the United States and Canada, but if you look at to our Caribbean neighbors that are enjoying that level of economic development and standard of living,
right,
they also tend to have the highest percentage of foreign skilled workers in their economy.
Mr. Chen, fantastic. Ms. Roper, I have to carry you in. Simply, do you think that importing replacements for the gaps we see here is the best way to go?
Well, there's a lot to be considered, because if it is that we really do not have the skills and the persons to undertake the jobs, then we really will have a problem. However, I believe we have to be absolutely sure that we don't have the persons and the opportunities to have them trained up in order to take on the work. That's the difficulty. I think we need to be very clear here in some of these data and statistics. If we are clear about that, then we ought to consider, yes, if we need the additional persons in the workforce. So we have to be absolutely clear that there's a need. And after that, that is the only way we should be looking at bringing in persons. And even so, we have to take the requisite steps to examine who is presenting themselves to come into the country.
Nice.
Let us not forget that we had a version of foreign skilled workers, an unsavory type coming from the indentured laborers, the Chinese, the Indians that came in. So we don't want to repeat what would have happened way back. We have to, if we are taking in workers, look at the process we use to ensure that we are getting the right type of persons for the roles that actually need filling. And that's where the law will come in and the procedures and the structures. So
Fantastic.
it's not a blanket. It's a thing that we have to look at very deliberately.
Thank you, Ms. Roper. We're up on a quick break. When we come back, the researcher will join the conversation. This is Lead Story. Stay with us.
And things are constantly changing, but independent living remains the same. Rising above physical challenges, we can help you do it. For years, we have been Jamaica's trusted provider for solutions to improve patient care, safety, and general quality of life. No matter your age or your physical limitation, we are the caring store, waiting to serve you. It's time to experience independent living. Visit us today.
What's your story? What's your sign? Who dreamers? Don't care what other people say. We're doing this in our own way. We come alive. We come alive. We come alive. We're doing this in our own way. We come alive.
Welcome back. You're watching Lead Story, and we're talking solutions to Jamaica's skills deficit. We're now bringing into the conversation, his name is Ronaldo Blake. He's a lead researcher at Capri, and we have to ask you this question. What is the correlation between a skilled labor force and economic growth, especially for us as a developing country?
I mean, I'd say the correlation is probably one. And for those people who are not familiar with statistics, it means like it's completely necessary, it's needed. It's skilled workers that contribute the most value added to the economy. And it's not just about production in terms of doing work that we think about on an everyday basis. It's about
Mr. Blake, hang on. What do you mean by, for audience, explain, what do you mean by value added?
So value added is pretty much how much a worker produces. Or to put it in simpler terms, the difference between the cost of doing the production and the value that you produce in the economy. And the easiest way to think about it is like how much you get paid, right? So you could pretty much compare the value added of two workers in an economy by looking at how much they get paid. And skilled workers produce more in any given scenario, and therefore they get paid way more. And in terms of economic growth, you do need skilled workers in order, as I was saying before, not just to contribute to day-to-day work, but also to drive innovation, to drive new business creation, to drive industry. And I mean, there was like a discussion earlier about the way in which we should manage the market. And I would say it's really difficult for the government to be responsive to the needs of the labor force, which is why it's important for you to have a system that is fairly responsive, fairly fluid, such that businesses can hire people when they need them.
Right. Mr. Chen, what are some of the challenges that business owners encounter when trying to recruit foreign labor? Because if I recall, I think the permit is like, for non-Commonwealth citizens, it's a little over $17,000. But beyond that, I assume there are other barriers. So explain them for us.
It typically is just the slowness of the process. It's how long between having a gap in your business or a vacancy, advertising locally and not being able to find the requisite talent, and then going through the hurdle of identifying someone overseas. It's just the slowness of the process. When in business, you have to be able to deal with these matters in hours and days, not in weeks and months. And it impacts business growth. It impacts overall Jamaica's country competitiveness. And I want to say that I wholly endorse what Carla and Harris Roper was saying earlier. Nobody is advocating an opening to allow a floodgate of people pretending or non-skilled. Because I don't think it has come out clearly in the conversation that Jamaican employers will prefer to engage and hire Jamaican employees because it's cheaper. That has been proven over and over that if you have a local solution, why would you want to go and hire someone from overseas that is going to incur relocation costs, may not fit into the local culture? So it's not a way of bypassing Jamaican workers. We'd love to have far more skilled Jamaican workers. It's just that in the short term, where we are now, there is a huge skills shortage in the country. Now, for the medium and longer term, of course, you're going to want to train more Jamaicans. And in fact, bringing skilled people in actually helps to deliver more skilled training into the economy, because when a skilled worker works beside an unskilled worker, you're not hiding that knowledge, you know. People are learning as we are doing.
Now, work permits have been granted in repair of motor vehicle equipment, 1,961, in construction, in hospitality, tourism. Those are the key sectors. But are there other sectors that we should be considering lightening the restrictions for entry for these workers? Mr. Chen?
No, I touched on a basic one. I touched on the shortage of STEM teachers. So if we're going to even talk about skills training for a modern economy, for the current and future work, we need to bring people into the education sector. A lot of the bottlenecks in the healthcare right now are not equipment, you know. It's technicians. So if you want to expand, say, dialysis rapidly in Jamaica, you're going to need a lot more, not the person that sticks the needle in the arm. You're going to need a lot more people to maintain the machines. And on. We can touch any sector in Jamaica and see that more skilled workers in the short term would boost that sector. Traditional sectors like agriculture, which could benefit from more technology, we could expand out. Jamaica is a land of samples. There are small pockets of things doing very well in Jamaica. But to ramp it up to scale is going to require many skilled workers.
Mr. Roper, Mr. Chen, forgive me. Mr. Roper, why is it difficult to take a Jamaican worker with foundational skills and train them for the gaps that we see locally?
I think you're starting from the place that it is difficult. Again, I have to go back to where is this data? Is there data to support this? Because if there is no such data, we do have a problem. But let us say that that is the case. Perhaps it is how, things are presented to the particular persons. If they are not made aware of why it is that they are doing or what they're being asked to do, you get a mind block.
But Ms. Roper,
and therefore you create the problem.
But on a point of clarity, the Prime Minister has said that the skills deficit is caused in part by persons not being up to par with literacy and numeracy rates. So I guess, should we be focusing on fixing those foundational issues long term and maybe bolstering the local labor force with the foreign labor short term?
That may make sense. I agree with Wayne when he said there is always going to be knowledge transfer. So if it is that you have someone with a specific skill set and they are working alongside someone, the likelihood that there's going to be a knowledge transfer is higher, but we have to be deliberate about it. Even now in the work permit sphere, when someone is brought in, one of the particulars or one of the things that the Ministry of Labour always says is that you cannot have this work permit rolling over and over. You must, during the period that the work permit has been granted, make efforts to ensure that other local resources are now brought up and upskilled to be able to take over those roles. They're not expecting that persons are going to be there. It's part of the regime. My challenge is that sometimes we are bringing in persons who there is necessarily no specific skill. It is what the employer wants. The employer feels that they may have a more pliant worker who comes from overseas. And they are prepared to spend that money to bring in workers. Human resource managers, Wayne. I don't think that we have a dearth of that. But in some companies, they want their HR person. And that can create its own problems. You raised an issue about culture and culture shock. Parts of that we are seeing, unfortunately, Ramon, in the hotel sector. You've heard it.
Right.
They don't understand. They're not trying to understand. We can't understand them.
Ms. Roper,
So we have to be so careful in that regard.
Right. I have to bring in Mr. Blake. You said something very impactful a while ago. What sectors should we be prioritizing, and where should we even be looking for this talent?
I mean, given the cost and difficulty, as we mentioned, of getting foreign workers in Jamaica in the first place, and also given the fact that Jamaica is still a relatively poor economy and businesses are constrained in terms of how much they can pay, trying to figure out what sectors or what specific workers or skills you should pick and choose is a very tedious process and one that can ultimately be counterproductive to what you're trying to achieve. The recommendations that we made in the migration report were to have basically all sectors being freed up. And one of the reasons for this was the interviews that we did with stakeholders across multiple sectors, the private sector organization, human resources organizations, etc., explained to us that these skill shortages existed across all sectors, all industries, and all skill levels. So it wasn't just high-skilled workers, but it was medium-skilled workers and low-skilled workers. And I also want to point out that one of the things that we observed in the research was that the shortage of skills did not start when we had low unemployment rate. The shortage of skills were already being reported as early as 2017 by the Ministry of Labour, and that was a problem that they had noted at that time. That was already going on for a number of years. And again, this relates to the deficits that we have in the education sector, which we certainly need to work on addressing. And it also relates to the fact that there's a lot of out-migration from Jamaica. So given the depth of the problem and the breadth of the problem, it would probably be more important for us to just have a general process where everyone finds an easier time coming to Jamaica, and then between the workers who are seeking jobs and the businesses, they can do their own self-sorting instead of being managed by the government, which is something that would likely take much longer.
Very well. Mr. Chen, what's the ideal model? What should it look like? How should we go about filling the skills gap locally? Tell us. 15 seconds.
We need transparency. We have talked for a long time about an efficient LMIS, a labor market information system in Jamaica, that not only informs employers as to what talent is there, it informs potential investors, it informs education and training institutions, and it also informs workers to know what are the opportunities out there. Students fly blind in many instances in Jamaica. They go through school, they go and invest a lot of family assets in a tertiary education to come out and find that they can't find a job in their chosen field. So we need a lot more transparency in the system. But going back to what needs to happen, Ronaldo is completely correct. It's not for...
At 7. At 7.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Small business owners and independent contractors get affordable insurance with Sagicor Pro Shield. The time by Sagicor Life is
7 o'clock.
No more fear of missing out. CVM TV News is on YouTube. Get up-to-date news, sports, and business content at CVM TV News anytime, anywhere. Subscribe now to CVM TV News to see it happen.
What's your story? What's your sign? We're dreamers. Don't care what other people say. We're doing this in our own way. We come alive. We come alive. We come alive. We're doing this in our own way. We come alive.
That's me on the corner. People don't bother feel like you can predict who is going to be in the shop with me. A ship carry you back at you. Controversial. How old were you?
8 years old.
Now we're contemplating. These are the digits. What kind of episode this one? Another junction in life.
I have two left foot then, sir.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, man. See the buckle of the Nigeria now. This is my show, and you will not drop word from it.
They even know them things.
DJ, I can't say that no. You're going to mash up some house.
You know, say barber shop is really there ready to make your cut.
So, where you cut before? The cut, okay.
Now I'm where I want to be.
The Cut is brought to you by Flow.
CVM News at 7 Wednesday headlines, courtesy of Heart NSDA Trust, Jamaica's Human Development Agency.
Tonight in CVM News at 7, government rejects vote buying allegations. Critics slam efforts to lower electricity costs as insufficient, and flooding wreaks havoc in Portland's vulnerable communities. In Living the Life, Curlin Brown continues to explore the experiences of the Jamaican sugarcane farmers in the Florida Glades. While in sports, Cavaliers claims first leg win in CONCACAF Caribbean Cup.
News at 7 Wednesday headlines, courtesy of Heart NSDA Trust, Jamaica's Human Development Agency.
I wish I could reduce my electricity bills.
I wish I could live more sustainably.
Get a Sagicor Bank mortgage from November 11, 2024 to January 31, 2025, and you could be a lucky winner in the Sagicor Bank mortgage Green Wish promotion. There are 3 grand prizes of energy-saving appliances to be won. Get a Sagicor Bank mortgage and make your green wish come true. Visit Sagicor.com. Conditions apply. Authorized under Section 58(3) of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
CVM News at 7 Wednesday, courtesy of...
Your love lives on with life insurance from Sagicor.
From Kingston, Jamaica, this Wednesday, November 27, 2024. Thanks so much for making it CVM News at 7. I'm Curlin Brown in for Nika Lewis. Allegations of vote buying are once again taking center stage as the government responds to claims recent tax cuts could be a prelude to election manipulation. The opposition has raised concerns, but the Andrew Holness-led team has firmly rejected the accusations. Here's more from Ramon Gordon.
The government has rubbished allegations of vote buying, dismissing them as baseless claims by the opposition during a press conference early Tuesday morning. The basis of those accusations, a recently announced $20,000 cash incentive and a tax cut, revealed by JLP leader Andrew Holness during his conference on Sunday. At a post-cabinet media briefing on Wednesday, government officials fiercely rejected the claims.
The so-called reverse income tax credit is to be turned into a $20,000 money giveaway. It is a blatant, run-with-it, vote-buying scheme for the next election.
Education Minister Dana Morris-Dixon says that the measures were part of a broader strategy to tackle the cost of living crisis developed with careful fiscal consideration.
Cabinet has been speaking about the cost of living crisis for a long time, for several months. So in no way is this a gimmick. This is really the administration listening to the people of Jamaica and doing it in a very responsible manner.
The accusations surface amidst heightened tensions following the November 22 by-election, with the PNP writing to Police Commissioner Dr. Kevin Blake. The letter urged the Jamaica Constabulary Force to ensure impartiality and fairness, citing concerns about voter intimidation and alleged vote buying during the campaign. Citizens Action for Free and Fair Elections, CAFE, has also reported at least 2 cases of voter intimidation in Annan Town, Clarendon. There have been mixed reactions to the government's latest tax initiatives, with at least one tax expert highlighting the timing.
I'm afraid to note that the timing of this does seem like it is intended to impact the upcoming election, but it is a good thing for the government to be looking to identify the productive sector, to provide incentives for them, and the increase in the threshold for the tax-free threshold for individuals is good for the small man.
Critics of the new initiative abound, as does the government's fierce rebuttal of attacks on its most recent policies. Amid rising anticipation ahead of the next polls, the JLP government maintains it, quote, cares.
This is not a gimmick. This is about the people of Jamaica, who many of them are hurting. They don't want us to be playing games, and the administration is not playing games. We're listening to them and we're responding.
Ramon Gordon for CVM News.
More than 30,000 Jamaicans are set to benefit initially from a sweeping debt relief program aimed at regularizing water access for vulnerable citizens. The initiative, announced by Prime Minister Andrew Holness at the Jamaica Labour Party's annual conference a few days ago, offers amnesty to customers with long-standing arrears at the National Water Commission, the NWC. The program will provide full debt forgiveness for pensioners and those disconnected for more than 2 years, while customers disconnected for 6 months or more will receive a 50% discount on their debts, as well as flexible repayment options. The amnesty will commence on January 2 and will run for 3 months. And on to this follow-up now. The Prime Minister's announcement of a tax cut on electricity continues to make the rounds, with critics weighing in on the viability of the proposed reduction, some going as far as calling the plan insufficient and a failure when compared to promises made by the party during its 2016 and 2020 campaigns. Here's more from Britannia Whittle.
Following the Prime Minister's announcement to slash the general consumption tax on electricity from 15% to 7%, critics continue to voice concern over the government's energy management. One critic is accusing the Jamaica Labour Party administration of failing to deliver on energy promises made in its 2016 and the 2020 election manifestos. While the tax cut has been framed as a relief measure aimed at helping Jamaicans cope with the rising utility costs, members of the opposition have argued that it is not the best fiscal move. The approach is also being challenged by noted economist Dr. Damian King.
If you have, say, $2 billion to play with of fiscal resources, of tax money, what is the objective that the government is pursuing, and what are the other ways it could achieve it with this $2 billion? And then you can see whether you prefer to have the other thing, the alternatives, or the 7% GCT cut. So, for example, an alternative could be an across-the-board reduction in GCT of a small percentage, instead of leaving it at 15%, and a large cut just on electricity. And then you can examine who benefits more from which one.
Accessibility to cheaper and better electricity has been a part of the JLP's campaign in both the 2016 and 2020 elections. In its 2016 manifesto, the party said it would reduce energy costs for households and businesses through a series of reforms, including an overhaul of the energy sector.
We are going to ensure that we bring to this country the big energy companies that can put the money in here to build the plants to give you cheaper and better electricity.
In 2020, the party reiterated its commitment to a cheaper, more reliable electricity supply, with plans for further investment in renewable energy and energy efficiency programs. However, the country's electricity rates are still among the highest in the Caribbean. As the JLP asks for a third consecutive term, critics contend that progress has been slow and insufficient.
What the government has done, they made a promise in 2016, Andrew Holness, that he's going to build more efficient electricity production plant, etc., etc., etc. Now come 2024, 8 years later, they have not done so. And what are they doing? Saying that the tax that we gave them to build these plants to make electricity cheaper for us, they are going to give us back the tax because they don't know what to do with it.
Houghton added that it is the government's responsibility to use taxes to create better infrastructure, not give it back.
In a country like Jamaica, where the infrastructure is so poor, right, because we pay taxes to ensure that we have the best infrastructure, the best roads to drive on, the best hospitals, the best schools, and other government-related expenses that we cannot do on our own. And the government now is telling us that they won't be able to deliver this cheaper electricity because they have not built any infrastructure. But here, take back the tax. Vote for us, take back the tax.
With the details of the DCT reduction unclear, all eyes will be on the government's next step in its effort to make electricity more affordable for the Jamaican people. Britannia Witter, CVM News.
Now, following the Prime Minister's announcement of fee waivers for craft vendors and an extended waiver especially for those affected by Hurricane Beryl in St. Ann, many are celebrating the proposed financial relief. However, the PNP caretaker for Northeast St. Ann is not pleased, saying the waiver is simply not enough. Courtney Lewis reports.
Some craft vendors, especially those hard hit by Beryl, are celebrating the Prime Minister's announced fee waiver. And although they wish the help had come sooner, many are so grateful for the relief.
I am very much overwhelmed at this time as acting president of the Jamaica Craft Traders and Producers Association to know that at this time, a Prime Minister can take such a bold step in order to help to alleviate, the frustration of the craft people. Especially some of those people that is in Montego Bay right now, where we have seen where some of them have lost their livelihood, they have lost their shop just because they couldn't afford, to pay their rent.
You may find some members who are saying that it is not enough because they are not owing currently. But you have some members who are owing a lot over a period of time. So those members benefit across the island.
But the PNP caretaker for Northeast St. Ann says the offer is patronizing as the rent waiver is not a sustainable economic plan.
If money is coming into the craft markets, if business are coming, if there's a system that protects the craft trade and protects our craft artisans from being overrun by foreign produced Jamaican craft, so make sure that there's protection so that our people are producing the craft and are benefiting from the sales of the craft. And when the tourists come to Jamaica, that they are transported directly to the craft market so that they can be exposed to our craft, Jamaican craft, then you don't have to worry about paying their rent.
He adds more work needs to be done to restore the markets to boost sales.
We have craft markets that are centrally located, but some of them are in deplorable conditions, have not been maintained, have not been upgraded, and so of course tourists will have a problem coming there.
And the vendors are holding to the Member of Parliament's promise for restoration and sales boosting.
He have promised us that he's going to do everything within his power in order to go through and fix the craft markets.
The government has promised to assist us in that. And what we want and what the members are saying, especially in my market where I'm from, in Ocho-Rios, is that we need to see the visitors coming.
Courtney Lewis for CVM News.
And the CVM News at 7 will continue in a moment. Stay with us.
Sports Ready Cash will give to you. 10 hands for baking, 9 party tickets, 8 phones are ringing, 7 air fryer, 6 cash backs, 5 shopping sprees, 4 smart TVs, 3 100 grand, 2 200 grand, and a big check for 500G.
Take a Quartz Ready Cash loan of $55,000 or more between now and December 26th for a chance to win one of 55 amazing prizes. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act. Quartz Ready Cash, ready when you are. Conditions apply.
Thanks so much for staying with us. Heavy rains have triggered widespread devastation in Portland, cutting off access to several areas. Residents are grappling with collapsed roads, damaged houses, and rising fears of isolation. Shantae McNeil has their story.
Residents in Coopers Hill, Portland were left partially marooned Tuesday morning after landslides triggered by recent downpours blocked their roadways. Reports are that several other areas in the parish, including breastworks and a section of the Craig Mill bypass, were washed out. In Bangor Ridge, the main road collapsed on Saturday, leaving approximately 1,500 residents stranded. Member of Parliament for Portland Western Darrell Vaz explained that the homes of several residents were significantly damaged as a result of gullies overflowing and rivers breaking their banks. He said steps have so far been taken to assist those impacted.
The Ministry of Labour and Social Security and the emergency apparatus in the parish has been actioned to assist those persons who have had damage to their house and also who have been flooded out. NWA is clearing the roads on a temporary basis for access, and the assessment will have to be done after the rain subsides.
He said the assessment will determine how best to allocate resources under the REACH or SPARK initiatives to provide relief to hardest hit areas. Still, the minister shared the toll on years of progress in the constituency ruined by the flooding.
So far, there has been several houses that have had major damage. There's quite a number of houses that are compromised now based on the retaining walls that have broken down. Thankfully, there's no loss of life, but definitely the infrastructure has taken a battering. The roads are all scoured, so we've lost everything that we have done over the last few years in terms of infrastructure, repairs, roads, both parochial roads and main roads.
A flash flood watch for low-lying and flood-prone areas, which ended at 5 p.m. Wednesday, served as a stark reminder of the region's continued vulnerability to extreme weather events. Shantae McNeil, CVM News.
The private sector organization of Jamaica, the PSOJ, is speaking out about racially suggestive comments made by Southwest St. Catherine Member of Parliament Everald Warmington towards opposition leader Mark Golding. The PSOJ is urging the political ombudsman to take swift action. The opposition leader, in the meantime, says it's indicative of Jamaica's negative political past. Courtney Lewis tells us more.
All the while, we are descendants of the slaves. We don't want no descendant slave master come rule us again. Put him back on the banana boat and send him back to England.
Those inflammatory remarks from Southwest St. Catherine MP Everald Warmington pointed to opposition leader Mark Golding at a party meeting in West Kingston recently have prompted outrage and calls for political intervention. Similar jabs at Golding's character were shared at the JLP's annual conference from Member of Parliament Juliet Culpert-Flynn.
He is a man who believes in holding chains around the neck of black people.
The opposition leader has since responded in a media briefing Tuesday, expressing his disappointment in what he describes as a lack of principle.
I think that the JLP's attempts to use my color as a political battering ram smacks of desperation on their part. How is it that the government of Jamaica is allowing a junior minister or a former minister, two MPs, to be using racial taunts and slurs as a source of attacking a political opponent? It's very bad form, and it's unfortunate for Jamaica, and it really needs to stop.
The private sector organization of Jamaica, the PSOJ, has also joined the conversation, citing the comments as a dangerous and deliberate attempt to inject racial division into political discourse.
There's absolutely no place in Jamaica's political landscape for statements of that nature. Though that reflects a dark day in our history, and we hope not to see it again. And I call on all of Jamaica to rebuke what you said and to put that behind us now. We want a level of civility in our country, and it must start with our leadership.
The organization is further calling for the political ombudsman to step in.
The verbiage on the political hustings is getting testy, and we want to hear from the EOJ now. We want to hear from the political ombudsman's office as to what they're going to do about it, because it is just simply not acceptable.
The hope is for the Member of Parliament to be held accountable. The Electoral Commission is investigating the matter. Courtney Lewis for CVM News.
And there's still more to come after this.
Is your trusted specialist for interior wall supplies and expert installation. For almost 2 decades, we have been the go-to source for commercial and residential projects. Suppliers of interior and exterior boards, acoustic ceiling systems, installation, FRP, skirting tools, and more. Visit our showroom at 130 to 132 Maxwell Avenue or WhatsApp us at 876-461-3094 to find out more.
Welcome back. Now, following the latest multiple killings on Waltham Park Road, which claimed the lives of 5 men, Justice Minister Delroy Chuck has called on Justices of the Peace, JPs, to play a greater role in combating crime. Speaking at the Trelawney Justice of the Peace Association's commissioning ceremony on Tuesday, Minister Chuck suggests they work closely with the police to help dismantle gang violence across the nation.
See how you can get relevant and important information to the police that they can act on. Because they do think that the gangs are only in St. James, Westmoreland. They're infiltrating every corner of Jamaica. And for one reason or another, it is one of the challenges of modern life. Gangs are becoming well organized.
And drawing parallels to the gang-ravaged state of Haiti, Minister Chuck stresses the urgency of acting now.
Former heroes you're solving many of the problems in your communities. I'm not saying you must go in a public square and say who is the criminal, but get the information in a subtle way to the police. Tell the person to tell you the GP, and you the GP say, it not come from me, it come from somebody, but they'll tell you how it goes.
The Jamaica Constabulary Force has launched a search for a teen reported missing from Spice Grove in Manchester. As Adrian Williams reports, members of the community have also joined in the search to bring that special needs child safely home.
A family in Spice Grove, Manchester is distraught after 15-year-old Georgiana Bramwell has been missing since Wednesday, November 20. The anxiety and pain currently being experienced by the family were described by the missing teen's mother.
She was wearing a pink blouse, brown slippers, blue and white jeans pants. Anyone seen her? I'm begging and pleading. Please return her to her mom, her dad and her brothers and other family members. I beg of you.
The police and fire brigade were joined in their search by caretaker for northwestern Manchester, Damian Young, who urged community members to be on the lookout.
And just to say, look around and see if you see this child. All is not entirely well with her, and we are optimistic. We are praying that she will turn up, that someone will see her and can alert the family members.
Young called for every effort to be made to find the teen.
We are going to be asking of the police, see if you can dispatch the K9 unit so that the dogs can follow a scent and be able to make the search more effective. We are appealing also to the Jamaica Defence Force. Whatever you can do to aid in the search of this young lady, we would like all hands on board.
Since then, the Jamaica Constabulary Force K9 unit has also been activated to search the dense foliage and rugged terrain of the surrounding areas.
The police have been advised that because of the frequent rainfall, the dogs were not able to pick up a scent, and they did try to initiate the search from a number of locations, but the rainfall has prevented them from really getting an accurate scent to track.
Georgiana was last seen in the Spice Grove area of Manchester. Anyone with details regarding to her whereabouts are being asked to contact the family at 876-787-3376 or the Manchester Police. Adrian Williams reporting for CVM News.
And we're upon a quick break. We'll be right back.
Get a little complex sometimes. Often so many things make sense, yet so many do not. We are being intentional about giving prominence to the big stories in order to clarify and enlighten. Lead Story explains who, what, when, where, why, and how. Lead Story with George Davis, weekdays at 6:30 p.m. on CVM TV.
Of course, I'm at Mega Mart. Where else do you expect me to be? Girl, the prices here are ridiculously low. Anyway, look, I know you never asked, but I got me some meats, I got me vegetables, I also got me some juices, and then I stopped by the bakery, then I went by the pharmacy where I did a little banking, and girl, I am just so excited for tonight. Listen, Mega Mart has the best prices by far. Jackie.
KFC's popcorn chicken, now available in barbecue. KFC, it's finger licking good. The time by KFC is 7:30.
So glad you stayed with us. You know, a percentage of the men who left Jamaica to harvest sugarcane in the United States back in the 1900s opted not to return home for whatever reasons. Well, we found someone from the second generation of an American businessman who, like the Yardis, worked and played hard in the Glades.
Living the life defies time and laws, surpasses storms, hurricanes, wars, recession, pandemics.
Jeffrey Captain Jackson is the 13th of 20 children for an American man whose name carried much weight back in the days with Jamaican cane cutters. Van Jackson, a.k.a. Duck, had 8 baby mamas, but he settled and married LaVon, and together they carved out popular household hotspots in South Florida. Jackson's Variety Store and Jackson's West Indies Tavern, also called the Chicken Shack.
Being a child, you see people from another country come to America and to work, and you can't help but wonder what's life like back in their country that they're traveling to work. And working in sugarcane was very difficult work. I would ride my motorcycle through the cane fields and I'd see the guys cutting canes. It was obviously that they were tough people and able to do that type of work. And so I really admired them for that. They've always, everybody getting off that bus to work in those fields, everybody looked like they were strong and ready to go to war.
Today, Captain Jackson, who retired after 35 years of service, is one of 3 sons who walked in the footsteps of their now late dad.
He was a cop who retired and decided to go into business for himself, to be an entrepreneur, bought a couple of dump trucks and bought a large building. That on that property, it had a 28-unit efficiencies. Upstairs is a 2-story building, about 8 units downstairs, a nightclub, a clothing store, and lots of garage and storage space. And so all the Jamaicans would get dropped off to the clothing store, to the nightclub. They would stay in town, and some of them would go out, or they buy goods, take them back home, come back into town at night and party. And man, they could drink a lot, they could party a lot. So I guess you could say that they, like military men, they worked hard and they played hard.
Jeffrey has memories of the Jamaican farmers.
I wonder why your dad extended a hand to them. I mean, he was not Jamaican, your family was not Jamaican, but I wonder how he, or why.
For a guy who left Georgia with a 6th grade education, being a young man, and having to quit school to work and support his family, he could sympathize with that. But it was so many of them, and they were spending so much money, it made us very well off. And he returned the favor by helping those that he can.
But as sweet as sugar is, harvesting the golden miracle in the Glades of Florida left somewhat of a sour taste in the mouths of some Jamaican families, especially the children and their mothers, when their men traded homes.
And so the ones that wanted to, I won't say, well, for lack of a better word, let's call it break the contract, are those who wanted to start a new life here in America. He would do everything he could to help them. So he always